We just got the news that The Boring Company is hiring in Austin, Texas, through a tweet made by The Boring Company that was then retweeted by none other than Elon Musk. This has left a lot of people, including me, wondering and trying to figure out what they are planning on doing in Texas, and why Texas specifically. So I decided to dig a little deeper into this hiring announcement, as well as the plans they have for Texas. And what I found was seriously interesting, but also made a lot of sense, considering what else is found in Texas. So, in this video, I will be showing these findings and try to shed some light on why The Boring Company seems to be so interested in Texas. Also, only a small percentage of people who watch my videos are actually subscribed. So if you end up liking this video, consider subscribing, it's free and you can always change your mind. Okay, so let's start with the statement that The Boring Company made in their hiring tweet. You see, they didn't just say, "we're hiring." No, they made it a little more interesting. They wrote, "Rumor has it that Austin chalk is geologically one of the best soils for tunneling." And this made me wonder if the soil was the main factor in choosing Austin. So naturally, I began looking up the composition of the soil in Texas with the intent to figure out what the Austin chalk was. And what I found was surprisingly very interesting. I found this detailed map of soil composition in Texas made by the USDA. And as soon as I found it, I began the search for chalk. And to my surprise, chalk was mentioned only once. So I went to the one time chalk was mentioned and found the Texas Blackland Prairie. And would you look at that? The Austin chalk is written right here, just like The Boring Company mentioned in their tweet. Now I knew that it was real, but I didn't know the extent of the Austin chalk, other than it was obviously located in Austin. So I went straight to the map and found out where the Blackland Prairie was located, and saw this long strait along with this smaller strait right next to it. But I quickly realized that I didn't know Texas's geography whatsoever. So I found a map of Texas and took a screenshot of the soil map and overlaid the soil map on the Texas map, and found that it indeed was running through Austin and straight towards Dallas. So now that I knew what the Austin chalk was and the geographic location of it, I needed to figure out what The Boring Company was going to do here. So I began searching for new infrastructure plans in the Austin area, and at first I didn't really find anything, but then I found this, Project Connect, an infrastructure project designed to expand transit capacity in the county. But the interesting thing about this project is that it was approved by voters on November 3rd, and The Boring Company's tweet was published only 6 days after that, which could mean the regulators have given The Boring Company a green light to build these tunnels, because the infrastructure project includes tunnels, so it seems like an obvious fit for The Boring Company. But I couldn't find any official statements anywhere that The Boring Company would partake in the project, so the certainty of them doing so is unclear. But even though it is a possibility that this infrastructure project is the main reason they are so interested in Austin, I couldn't help but think about the fact that Tesla, another one of Elon Musk's companies, just so happens to have a gigafactory being built there. So I started to wonder if The Boring Company and Tesla could be thinking of doing a partnership, and if so, what that would be for. My first intuition was to figure out if there were any key suppliers in the Austin chalk area. And since the Cybertruck is supposed to be made there, I thought maybe they will build a tunnel between stainless steel suppliers and the Gigafactory, as stainless steel is the main material for the Cybertruck. And it would make sense as there are multiple stainless steel suppliers located in the Dallas area. But then again, why build a tunnel when you might as well just use Tesla semis, as they have more flexibility and less upfront cost? So I disbanded that theory. But then I thought maybe the job offerings could give a clue as to what will be going on, so I went to their website and saw something interesting. They have 2 sections, one for engineers and one for operations. And looking at the engineering job offerings, you can see they are looking for an electrical engineer, lead electrical technician, mechanical engineer, power electronics engineer, and a senior mechanical engineer. And in the operations job offerings, they are looking for a person capable of taking the business development lead lead, and another one to be lead technical recruiter, and the last one is a staff accountant. Unfortunately, I don't understand much about engineering, and so the job titles alone didn't help me much, but then I clicked on them to learn more about the job offerings, and suddenly it all made sense. You see, at the top of every job offering, there is a description of what the Boring Company stands for and what their goal is, which is to make Hyperloop adaptation viable, along with enabling rapid transit across densely populated regions. But that's not all. Further down in some of these job descriptions, they mention their Prufrock TBM, which is their third generation tunnel boring machine that is 100% engineered and built in-house by the Boring Company. So here's my theory. The reason Texas was chosen was first and foremost because of the Austin Chalk area that gives them the opportunity to test out the Prufrock machine in terrain that is easy to dig through, and I believe that tunnel could be between Austin and Dallas, as they are both highly populated regions and they happen to be both in the Austin Chalk area, so it's basically a perfect match. Although these two cities are 195 miles apart, which is quite the distance in a tunnel, as the longest tunnel in the world is only around 35 miles, so it does seem like quite the stretch to make it a reality. But on the other hand, the Boring Company's website states that their Prufrock machine has been designed to dig a little over a mile a week, which in this scenario of them building a tunnel between Dallas and Austin would mean 3 years of straight tunneling to complete it. But that's not all of it. They have a long-term goal of reaching 7 miles per day, which honestly is almost unbelievable, because that would mean the tunnel would be dug in under a month. And as far as tunnel digging projects go, if they can make it in under a month or even 3 years, it would be a world record by all standards. But let's address the elephant in the room: the price. You see, the Boring Company says their loop system tunnels cost around $10 million per mile, which in this case, where it needs to be 195 miles long, it would amount to almost $2 billion, which is quite a big project for a company that is thought to only be valued at around $1 billion. So maybe it isn't a tunnel between Austin and Dallas, but instead just a small tunnel in Austin as part of the infrastructure project I talked about earlier. And judging by the amount of people they are hiring, it does seem like they are partaking in a smaller project, as the 195-mile tunnel project would require just a tad more people working on it. And also, they need to test their Prufrock TBM before taking on any massive projects like the one I discussed. So the smaller tunnels that are planned in this infrastructure project seem to be the best way to do so. Although I do hope to see a large-scale project like the one I mentioned between Austin and Dallas be undertaken by the Boring Company in the future. But I guess I'll have to wait just a little longer before we see something like that happening. But it's clear that the Boring Company has multiple reasons to go to Texas, and likely way more than I had time to research or even talk about in this video. So I am excited to follow this closely, both in the short and long term, to see exactly what is going on in Texas.